Okay, in this next phase of videos, or lessons, we're going to be looking at another form of visual communication we can use. So we've been looking at 1 point and 2 point perspective. This time we're going to look at the use of signs and symbols. So in this lesson we're going to look at how designers might use colour and shape to communicate a different message, and then we're going to look at the effectiveness of different signs and symbols. So you can play this video along with the PowerPoint, and they can pause it at various points if there's an area to kind of consider. So in this case, signs and symbols and labels. So why do we use signs and symbols? So pause the video, have a think about it, and then you can continue with it once you've had a think. So in here it's got to be internationally recognizable. We use them because they take up less space than lots of words. We also use them to save lives. We also use them to speed up interpretation. So we might use them on roads when we're traveling at speed. We might use them as well if we can't read the language. We can then use them to reduce accidents. And then finally, we use them to categorize meanings as well. So by looking at different signs and symbols in different colors and shapes, we know what those meanings might be. What makes a good sign or symbol or label? Just pause the video, have a think about that first. Okay, continue with the video. So they've got to be bold. They've got to be informative. They've also got to not be misleading, so they don't want to send you down the wrong path. They've also got to be clear. And finally, they've also just got to be simple as well, not too complicated. The next question is, we're going to look at what's the difference between a sign, a symbol, and label. So first of all, we're going to look at the different types of symbols. So if we scroll up here, we've got something called pictograms. So these are normally stylized images of the actual object. So in here you can see we've got a stylized picture of a man, and again stylized picture of an athlete. So these are for the Munich Olympics. But here we've got the Tidy Man logo, so we can actually tell it's a man. The alternative is we might use something called an ideogram. So there's kind of an idea behind it. So they're not instantly recognizable, so we have to learn the meanings. So this one is the binary logo for standby. So we've got the binary symbol for on, the binary symbol for off, and then we've got a symbol here for pi. So we have to learn these. And then we've also got here, when we're looking at signs and symbols, is we want to be looking at the use of symbols in our signs. So to help us communicate a sign, we might use a symbol. So here we've got two pictograms, one of a boy and a girl and one of an aeroplane. We can tell that. If we scroll up, we might use the use of colour. So we've got blue on the mandatory sign. We might use red to suggest it's either danger or you've got to stop. And then finally, we might use shapes as well. So we already know that if it's got a triangle on it, we know it's some form of warning sign. If it's in a circle, it might be a different meaning, like a prohibitive or a mandatory sign, which we're going to look at in a minute. If we scroll up, we can categorize signs and symbols. So on the left hand side, we've got green. So these normally represent something to do with health and safety or the environment. Blue is normally a mandatory sign, which means you must do it. So in this case, we have to put a cover on the circular saw. The next meaning we've got here is something called prohibitive signs. So these are things that you cannot do, so you mustn't smoke in this case. If I scroll up again, the brown signs are normally informative signs for tourism, let's say for instance. And then the yellow sign here, they're our general warning signs as well. And also they've got to be in a triangle. If we scroll up on the PowerPoint, just pause the video and just have a think about what's wrong with these signs and symbols. So for a minute. Okay, if you're back now. So in this particular case, this one is the wrong colour. Should be red, so no drinks. This one, there's too many colours, just needs to be a single colour, black possibly. This one, there's too many signs and symbols, they're kind of too small. This one, there's far too much detail. This is the mandatory sign to say you've got to have a guard on there, but you can't really see the cogs behind it because it's too detailed. This one, the pictogram is too small because the line is almost like hiding most of the pictograms, so it's difficult to understand. And this one, we've kind of got the category wrong. This is saying warning, gloves, when really it should be a mandatory sign. You must wear the gloves. Okay, so some common misconceptions on here, how they can be misinterpreted. I don't know if you know the urban myth with this one. It looks like a man putting up an umbrella rather than men at work. So it normally looks a bit like this. And then we've got this one. This is a kind of fire exit sign, when the first thing we tell you if there is a fire is not to run because it could cause other fatalities if we cause. And then lastly, this one, we've kind of learnt that this one is for the toilet, and yet there's no indication that there's a toilet on here. We've got no idea, so we have to learn that one. Okay, so in the next video, we're going to start to look at the task. So we can just pause it there.